The massive space station called Harmony Point floated between three star systems like a glowing metal flower. Ships from dozens of worlds docked at its many arms every day. Today was special, though. Best minds from across the galaxy had come here for one reason. The annual Psychology and Mental Resilience conference was about to begin. Dr. Taman checked his presentation one more time as he walked through the station corridors. His blue skin shimmered under the artificial lights. As a Zephyrian he was, used to the electromagnetic fields that powered his nervous system. But here on the neutral station, the energy felt different. Weaker somehow. He hoped it would not affect his speech. Taman had worked for years on his research. He studied how different alien species responded to fear. Each race in the galaxy had their own special terrors, things that made them freeze up or run away, screaming. His work could help mixed colonies where many species lived together. If doctors understood what scared each species, they could treat mental problems better. The main conference hall was huge. Thousands of seats arranged in circles around a central stage. Beings from 12 different worlds had already taken there. Places Taman could see the tall, thin Vorthok delegates with their crystal-like bodies catching the light. The Namari representatives looked like floating clouds of gas held together by personal force fields. Near the back, the plant-like Sylvani swayed gently. Their root systems plugged into special nutrition ports. At the registration desk, a small commotion was happening. A young woman was arguing with the automated check-in system. "Park from Earth," she said in clear Galactic standard language. "My credentials should be in your database." The holographic assistant flickered, searching for Earth representatives. One registration found. "Welcome, Dr. Park. Please note you are the only delegate from your world." Janae smiled and took her identification badge. She was shorter than most beings here, with dark hair pulled back in a simple style. Her clothes were plain compared to the fancy robes and biosuits worn by other delegates. She looked around the vast hall with wide eyes, clearly impressed by the scale of everything. Tay-Min watched her with curiosity. Humans were still new to galactic society. Their world had only been discovered 20 years ago. Most species considered them primitive. They used crude technology and had only just figured out faster-than-light travel with help from the Galactic Council. What could one human possibly contribute to a conference of the galaxy's greatest minds? The opening ceremony began with traditional greetings from each species. The Calax representative, Dr. Yunmi, spoke for her entire hive mind through implants. Her words echoed with the voices of millions of her kind. "We gather to understand the mind," she said. "Fear shapes all thinking beings. By studying what frightens us, we learn what makes us strong." Dr. Wu Jin, from the Sylvani delegation, spoke next. His voice was like wind through leaves. "My people fear the burning drought and the cutting blade. These terrors helped us grow deep roots and thick bark. Fear teaches survival." One by one, each species shared their greatest fears. The crystalline Vorthok feared shattering into pieces. The gaseous Nimari feared being compressed into solid form. The aquatic Aquari feared drying out completely. Each terror made sense for their biology and home worlds. When they reached the human delegation, all eyes turned to Janae. She stood up calmly and walked to the speaking platform. Her footsteps echoed in the quiet hall. "Humans fear many things," she said simply. "We fear death, pain, being alone, losing the people we love. We fear failure, meaninglessness, and things we cannot understand or control." She paused and looked around the room. "But we also make stories about our fears. We write books about monsters and darkness. Make movies about terrible things happening. Even have special days where we dress up like scary creatures for fun." A ripple of confusion went through the audience. Several delegates whispered to each other in their native languages. Tay-Min leaned forward in his seat. This was unexpected. Most species avoided their fears completely. Why would humans seek them out voluntarily? "Thank you, Dr. Park," the conference moderator said quickly.
Now we move to the main presentation.
Taman walked to the center stage. His research data filled the air around him in glowing holographs. Charts showed fear responses across different species. Brain scans revealed how terror affected thinking patterns. Videos demonstrated various creatures in controlled, scary situations. Fear is universal, Taman began. Every thinking being in the galaxy experiences it, but we respond differently. Understanding these differences could revolutionize mental health treatment in mixed colonies. He showed recordings of different species facing their worst fears in laboratory settings. A Vorthok experiencing harmless vibrations that simulated cracking, a Namari in a gentle pressure chamber, a Sylvani exposed to warm, dry air. Each creature showed extreme stress responses even though they were perfectly safe. The fear reaction is so strong that even simulations can cause lasting psychological damage, Taman explained. This limits how we can study and treat fear-based disorders. The audience, Janae, raised her hand. Have you tried gradual exposure therapy combined with cognitive reframing techniques? Taman blinked in surprise. That was an advanced concept. His methods work for mild fears, but not for species-specific survival terrors. The responses are too extreme. What about testing cross-species reactions? Janae asked. If a Zephyrian experienced what scares a human, would the response be the same? The question hung in the air. Taman had never considered that approach. Testing how one species reacted to another species' fears could provide new data without triggering their own survival instincts. That is actually a brilliant idea, Taman said slowly. We could use advanced neural simulation technology to let subjects experience fears that do not match their biology. Excited murmurs filled the hall. This could be the breakthrough they needed. The station's medical bay has the latest simulation equipment, Taman continued, his mind racing with possibilities. We could set up controlled tests right here during the conference. Dr. Su Young, a Namori researcher who looked like a small purple storm cloud, floated closer to the stage. The ethics board would need to approve such experiments. We would need volunteers. I volunteered, Janae said immediately, standing up again. The hall fell silent. Taman stared at her. Dr. Park, you should understand what you are offering. You would experience the worst psychological terrors of 11 other species. Even in simulation, the mental stress could be severe. Janae tilted her head slightly. Will it cause permanent damage? Well, no. Simulations are perfectly safe. Physically. But the psychological impact, then I'm interested, Janae said with a smile. It sounds like valuable research. When do we start? Taman looked around the room at the other delegates. Most seemed shocked that this small human would volunteer for something so potentially traumatic. A few looked impressed by her courage. Others appeared worried about her judgment. Are there any other volunteers? Taman asked. Several hands went up, though more slowly than Ginny's immediate response. The insectoid Thrix delegate clicked her agreement. Vorthok agreed to participate. Even Dr. Yunmi said her hive mind was curious about the experience. Excellent, Taman said. We will need the rest of today to set up the equipment and get ethics approval. Testing can begin tomorrow morning. As the delegates filed out of the hall, talking excitedly about the proposed experiments, Taman found himself walking beside Janae. Dr. Park, may I ask why you volunteered so quickly? She looked up at him with bright, curious eyes. I study how different minds work. This is a perfect chance to experience alien psychology firsthand. How could I pass that up? Most beings would be terrified of experiencing another species' worst fears. Janae shrugged. Fear is just fear. Understanding it better seems worth a little discomfort. Taman felt a chill run through his electromagnetic field. There was something about her casual attitude that he found deeply unsettling. She spoke about facing alien nightmares, like someone discussing a mildly interesting lecture. As they walked through the station corridors toward their quarters, Taman wondered what kind of beings humans really were. Tomorrow's experiments would certainly be illuminating. The medical bay of Harmony Point looked more like a science fiction movie than a hospital. Gleaming white walls curved around advanced equipment that hummed with quiet power. The centerpiece was the neural simulation chamber, a smooth, egg-shaped pod that could create any experience directly in someone's mind. Dr. Taman ran his fingers over the control panels one more time. Everything had to be perfect. The Galactic Ethics Board had approved their experiment with strict conditions. No simulation could last longer than 1 hour. All subjects had to give written consent. Medical staff would monitor everything closely. Chamber works by sending signals directly to the brain, Taman explained to the gathered volunteers. Your body stays completely safe, but your mind will experience whatever scenario we program. It will feel completely real while you are inside. May sat on a bench nearby, looking relaxed. She had arrived early and spent the morning reading technical manuals about the simulation equipment. The other volunteers seemed more nervous. Dr. Kelvar, Zephyrin like Taman, kept checking his electromagnetic field readings. The insectoid Thrix delegate, Dr. Burra, clicked her mandibles. In what her species did when anxious. Who wants to go first? Taman asked. Everyone looked at everyone else. Nobody volunteered. I will go, Janae said, standing up. What scenario should I experience? Taman pulled up his research files. We should start with something moderately frightening. Zephyrin fear scenario involves electromagnetic disruption. For your human brain, we will translate this into chaotic neural interference. That sounds interesting, Janae said. She walked to the simulation pod without hesitation. The chamber opened with a soft hiss. Inside, it looked like a comfortable chair surrounded by glowing panels. Janae sat down and let the technicians attach monitoring equipment to her head and chest. Sensors would track her brain activity, heart rate, stress hormones, and other vital signs. Remember, if you want to stop the simulation at any time, just think the word emergency 3 times, Taman said. The system will end the scenario immediately. Got it, Janae replied. She closed her eyes as the pod sealed shut. Tay-Min activated the simulation. On the monitors, Janae's brain patterns showed she was experiencing the programmed scenario. Her heart rate increased slightly, but stayed within normal ranges. Inside the simulation, Janae found herself in what felt like the middle of a violent electrical storm. Lightning crackled through her thoughts. Her vision flickered between bright flashes and complete darkness. Sounds became jumbled noise that hurt to hear. Every nerve in her body felt like it was receiving random electrical shocks. For a Zephyrian, this would be the worst possible experience. Their electromagnetic nervous systems would feel like they were being torn apart. Most Zephyrians exposed to this simulation had to be pulled out within 5 minutes due to extreme psychological trauma. Jin-A stayed in the pod for the full 15 minutes they had programmed. When the chamber opened, she sat up and stretched, her arms above her head. That was quite an experience, she said calmly.
Very disorienting.
I can see how that would be terrifying for a species that depends on electromagnetic fields. Dr. Kelvar stared at her in shock. The monitoring equipment showed Ginny's stress levels had barely risen above normal. Her heart rate was slower now than when she went in. How do you feel? Taman asked, checking his instruments again. This had to be wrong. Fine, Janae said. A bit like I just woke up from a confusing dream. When does the real testing begin? The room fell silent. Real testing? That scenario should have left her shaking and confused for hours. Dr. Park, that was a full-intensity Zephyrian nightmare scenario, Dr. Kelvar said. His blue skin had gone. Pale, I have seen trained Zephyrian soldiers break down from less intense versions. Ginne looked genuinely surprised. Well, it was certainly unusual, but not really scary. More like ... educational. Taman made notes on his data pad. Either Ginne was hiding her true reaction, or humans had some kind of natural resistance to fear that nobody understood. Who goes next? Ginne asked, stepping away from the pod. Dr. Kelvar volunteered, though he looked nervous. They programmed a human fear scenario based on Ginne's earlier description. The simulation would put him alone in complete darkness. With no sound for what would feel like hours, KELVR lasted 7 minutes before his electromagnetic field started fluctuating dangerously. They pulled him out of the pod immediately. He emerged shaking and disoriented. Double quotes. How do humans survive such isolation? I gasped. The emptiness was crushing. I felt like I was dissolving into nothing. The medical team helped him to a recovery chair. His readings showed extreme psychological stress that would take hours to return to normal. Dr. Bora went next, experiencing the Vorthok nightmare of structural failure. The insectoid researcher felt her exoskeleton cracking and breaking in dozens of places. She lasted 12 minutes before requesting emergency extraction. She clicked in distress for 20 minutes after leaving the pod. "This is fascinating data," Taman said, studying the results. "Each species shows severe trauma responses to other species' fears just as predicted, except for the human." They ran Janae through 3 more scenarios that morning. She experienced the Namari compression terror, where she felt herself being squeezed into an impossibly small space. She faced the Solvani burning fear, feeling fire consume her body. She endured the Aquari drowning nightmare, gasping for water, that never came. Each time, she emerged calm and curious. Her vital signs showed less stress than some people experienced during normal daily activities. "This is unprecedented," Dr. Soo-young said. The Namari researcher floated near the ceiling, her gas form swirling with confusion. "Either your equipment is broken, or this human is not responding normally to fear stimuli." Taman ran full diagnostics on all the simulation equipment. Everything tested perfectly. The scenarios Janae experienced were identical to those that had traumatized the other volunteers. "Maybe we need to try harder," suggested Dr. Woojin, the Silvani delegate.
Ow.
His tree-like form rustled with thought. "Perhaps human fears are simply different from ours. We should create scenarios specifically designed to frighten humans." "What scares humans most?" Dr. Biora asked, still clicking occasionally from her earlier trauma. Jin-A thought about this seriously. "Well, we fear death, of course. Being hurt, losing people we care about, being rejected or abandoned, failure, the unknown. Things we cannot control. Those are universal fears," Taman said. "Every species fears death and pain." "True," Janae agreed. "Psst. But humans also fear more abstract things. We fear that our lives have no meaning. We fear that we are alone in the universe. We fear that nothing we do matters in the end." The alien researchers exchanged glances. These were strange fears. Most species were too busy surviving to worry about meaning or cosmic loneliness. "We could design scenarios around these concepts," Taman said slowly. "But they would be complex. It's more like psychological horror than physical terror." "That sounds much more interesting," Janae said eagerly. "Physical fears are easy to understand. Psychological fears are more subtle." Dr. Yunmi, who had been quiet all morning, finally spoke. Her voice carried the weight of her entire hive mind. "Perhaps we approach this wrong. Instead of testing human resistance to our fears, we should test human fears on humans." "You want to access Earth's cultural database?" Taman realized. "Study what humans create to frighten themselves." "Exactly," Yunmi said. "Every species has stories and art about their greatest terrors. If we want to understand human fear, we should look at human horror." Janae's eyes lit up with excitement. "Well, that would be wonderful. Earth has thousands of years of horror stories. Literature, movies, folk tales, urban legends. We have gotten very good at scaring ourselves." "This could be dangerous," Dr. Kelvar warned. He was still recovering from his simulation experience. If humans have spent thousands of years perfecting fear, their horror stories might be too intense for any species to handle safely. Janae waved off his concern. "Human horror stories are just entertainment. We watch scary movies and read frightening books for fun. How dangerous could they be?" The alien researchers looked at each other with growing unease. A species that created terrifying stories for entertainment? What kind of beings were humans really? Taman made his decision. "Tomorrow we will access Earth's cultural database and design new scenarios." "Dr. Park, are you willing to experience simulations based on your own species' horror creations?" "Absolutely," Janae said without hesitation. "I love horror movies. This will be like getting to star in one." As the day ended and the volunteers returned to their quarters, Taman stayed behind to plan the next phase of testing. He had a growing suspicion that they were about to discover something very unusual about humanity, something that might change how the galaxy viewed Earth's newest species. The question was whether they were prepared for what they might find. Dr. Taman spent most of the night reviewing the data from yesterday's tests. The numbers made no sense. Janae's stress responses were so low they looked like measurement errors. He ran the analysis program 5 times, but the results stayed the same. The human woman showed less fear reaction than someone taking a peaceful nap. Early the next morning, Taemin gathered his research team in the medical bay. Dr. Soo-young floated near the ceiling, her gaseous form shifting colors as she thought. Dr. Woojin stood rooted to a nutrition port, his bark-like skin still showing stress marks from yesterday. Dr. Yoonmi sat perfectly still, her cybernetic implants glowing as she consulted with her hive mind. The equipment must be broken, Dr. Bora clicked. The insectoid researcher was still jumpy from her simulation experience. No being can face that level of psychological terror without reaction. I checked everything 3 times, Taemin said. The simulation chamber is working perfectly. Dr. Park experienced exactly the same scenarios that traumatized the rest. Of you? Then she is lying about her reactions, Dr. Woojin rustled. Humans must have cultural reasons to hide fear. Perhaps they think showing terror makes them weak. Dr. Soo-young swirled thoughtfully. Her biological readings cannot lie. Heart rate, brain chemicals, muscle tension, all stayed normal throughout the worst experiences we could create. The team heard footsteps in the corridor. Ginne walked into the medical bay, carrying a cup of coffee and looking perfectly rested. She wore the same simple clothes as yesterday, and had her hair pulled back in the same practical style. "Good morning, everyone," she said cheerfully. "Ready for more testing? I slept wonderfully after yesterday's simulations." Very relaxing. The alien researchers stared at her. Relaxing. Dr. Kelvar had needed medical treatment for anxiety after his much milder experience. Dr. Park Taemin said carefully yesterday, "You experienced scenarios that would break the minds of most beings in the galaxy. Are you certain you feel no lasting effects?" Janae sipped her coffee and considered this. "Oh, I had some interesting dreams. The electromagnetic storm scenario gave me ideas for a research paper on sensory disruption. But no, nothing bad. Why?" "Because every other volunteer needed hours of psychological counseling," Dr. Yoonmi said. Her hive mind's collective voice sounded concerned. "What you experienced should have caused severe trauma," Go Janae said, looking genuinely surprised. "I am sorry to hear the others had trouble. Experiences were certainly unusual, but not really frightening. More like educational simulations." Taemin made a decision. If regular alien fears had no effect on Janae, they needed to try something stronger, much stronger. "Today we are going to try a different approach," he announced. "Instead of single-species fears, we will combine multiple terror scenarios at once." Dr. Soo-young's gaseous form darkened with worry. That could be extremely dangerous. Layering different psychological traumas might cause permanent damage. "Only 2 normal minds," Taemin said. "Dr. Park seems immune to standard fear responses. We need to find her breaking point." Janae set down her coffee cup. "That sounds fascinating. What did you have in mind?" Taemin pulled up new simulation programs on his datapad. "We'll combine the Aquari drowning terror with Terran claustrophobia. Will feel like you are trapped in a small space filling with water, unable to escape." "Interesting combination," Janae said. "The overlapping panic responses should amplify each other." Her clinical analysis of her own upcoming torture made the research team even more uncomfortable. The simulation lasted 30 minutes. Janae experienced being trapped in a metal box slowly filling with water. She could feel the liquid rising past her ankles, her knees, her waist. The walls pressed closer as the water reached her chest, then her neck. Just as it covered her mouth, the box would shrink further, forcing her to curl into an impossible position while drowning. She emerged from the pod yawning. "Sorry about that," she said, stretching. "The rocking motion of the water made me drowsy. It reminded me of being on a boat." Dr. Woojin's leaves rustled in disbelief. "You fell asleep during a combined drowning and claustrophobia nightmare." "The middle part? Yes. Very soothing." It checked her watch. "What is next?" Taemin programmed a new scenario. This time he combined the Sylvani burning fear with Namari compression anxiety. Janae would feel her body catch fire while being crushed into a tiny space. 40-5 minutes later, she stepped out of the pod looking refreshed. That was like a warm sauna combined with a deep tissue massage, she said approvingly. Very therapeutic. Do you have anything more challenging? The research team held an emergency meeting while Janae waited in the observation area. Through the window, they could see her reading a technical manual and taking notes. This is impossible, Dr. Biora clicked frantically. No creature can experience that level of combined terror without breaking. Perhaps humans are naturally immune to fear, Dr. Su-Young suggested. Some evolutionary adaptation we do not understand.
No.
Dr. Yunmi said. Her hive mind had been analyzing all available data about Earth. Humans show fear responses in their own environment. They avoid dangerous animals, heights, and other threats. They are not fearless. Taman studied the monitoring data from Janae's latest simulation. Something was very strange here. Her brain showed the same patterns as someone enjoying a pleasant experience. Maybe we are testing the wrong things, he said slowly. We keep using fears that make sense to us. But Dr. Park said yesterday that humans fear abstract concepts. Meaninglessness, cosmic loneliness, things we barely understand. Dr. Wujin swayed thoughtfully. You think human fears are too alien for us to recognize? Or too advanced, Taman said. What if human psychology has evolved beyond the simple survival fears that drive the rest of us? They called Janae back for another test. This time, Taman tried to create something that would frighten a human specifically. He programmed a scenario where she watched everyone she loved die slowly while being completely powerless to help them. Jin-A experienced seeing her family, friends, and colleagues suffer terrible fates while she stood frozen, unable to move or speak or help in any way. The simulation stretched the emotional torture over what felt like weeks. She emerged looking thoughtful rather than traumatized. That was quite sad, she said quietly. Very emotionally complex. The helplessness aspect was particularly well designed, but it felt more like a tragic drama than actual horror. Tragic drama? Dr. Kelvar stammered. You watched everyone you care about die horribly. Yes, but it was obviously a simulation, Janae explained patiently. I knew my real family was safe back on Earth. The scenario was designed to make me feel helpless, and it succeeded, but that is just an emotional experience, not actually frightening. Taman felt something cold settle in his electromagnetic field. Janae was analyzing her own psychological torture like a scientist studying data. She understood what each scenario was trying to do to her mind, and that understanding somehow protected her from its effects. Dr. Park, he said carefully, what would actually frighten you? Janae considered this seriously. Probably something I could not analyze or understand. Something that made no sense according to everything I know about reality. It's true cosmic horror that revealed the universe was fundamentally different than I believed. She paused and smiled. But that would be fascinating rather than purely scary. I love learning new things, even disturbing ones. The research team exchanged glances. They had created their most intense fear scenarios, combining multiple species' worst nightmares, and this human woman treated them like interesting entertainment. We need to access Earth's cultural database, Dr. Yunmi said finally. Want to frighten a human? We need to use human methods. Yes, Taman agreed. Tomorrow we dive into humanity's horror archives. Dr. Park, are you ready to face the darkest fears your own species has created? Janae's eyes lit up with excitement. Absolutely. Earth has some truly creative horror. This should be much more engaging than what we have tried so far. As the team prepared to end testing for the day, Taman wondered what they were getting into. If Janae was right about human horror being more sophisticated than alien fears, tomorrow's tests might reveal something about humanity that would change everything. The question was whether they were ready to learn what truly scared the species that found galactic nightmares relaxing. The research team worked through the night accessing Earth's cultural database. What they found disturbed them more than any alien nightmare they had ever studied. Dr. Taman stared at his screen in growing horror. Humans had entire industries dedicated to creating fear. They made movies about monsters that hunted people for sport. They wrote books about realities that dissolved around the characters. They told stories about gods so vast and alien that merely seeing them drove people insane. This cannot be entertainment, Dr. Soo-young said. Her gaseous form had turned a sickly yellow color. These scenarios would break any civilized mind. Dr. Woojin's bark had darkened to almost black. Look at this category called cosmic horror. Humans write stories about discovering they are meaningless insects in an uncaring universe. They call this fun to read. Dr. Yoonmi sat motionless, while her hive mind processed the data. My collective is having trouble understanding these concepts. One story describes creatures so alien that human language cannot describe them. Another tells of people learning that reality itself is fake. Dr. Biora clicked nervously as she read. This author called Lovecraft wrote about things called old ones, ancient beings that existed before humans and will exist after humans are gone. Just knowing about them destroys people's minds. Taemin scrolled through thousands of horror stories, movies, and games. Each one seemed designed to attack the human mind in different ways. Some focused on physical terror, others went after emotional bonds. The worst ones questioned the very nature of existence itself. How do humans read these stories without going insane? He wondered aloud. Maybe they do go insane, Dr. Kelvar suggested. Maybe human civilization is built on shared madness. The database showed that humans consumed horror content regularly. They had special seasons dedicated to scary stories. Children dressed up as monsters for holidays. Adults paid money to be frightened in haunted houses and scary movies. We need to select the most terrifying content, Taemin decided. If Dr. Park claims human horror is more engaging, we will test that theory. They chose stories about cosmic entities beyond human understanding. Tales of reality breaking down around characters who could not tell what was real anymore. Scenarios where loved ones turned into monsters, where safe places became death traps, where the laws of physics stopped working. Janae arrived for testing that morning looking excited. I heard you spent all night reading human horror. What'd you think? Horrifying, Dr. Soo-young admitted. How do your people create such disturbing content? Practice, Janae said cheerfully. We have been scaring ourselves for thousands of years. We got pretty good at it. Are you certain you want to experience simulations based on this material? Taemin asked. Some of these stories are designed to attack the very foundations of rational thought. That sounds wonderful, Janae said. I love thought-provoking fiction. What scenario did you choose first? Taemin activated the simulation chamber. We base this on something called cosmic horror. You will encounter entities so alien that your human mind cannot properly understand them. The experience should create existential terror about your place in the universe. Ginne settled into the pod with obvious enthusiasm. Cosmic horror is one of my favorite genres. This should be fun, the scenario began. Janae found herself in a place that was not quite a place, experiencing things that were not quite things. Vast intelligences moved through dimensions her brain could not process. She saw the true size of the universe and humanity's insignificant place in it. Ancient beings, older than galaxies, noticed her presence. Their attention felt like being examined by scientists looking at bacteria. She understood that everything humans believed about reality was wrong. The universe was cold, empty, and completely indifferent to human existence. Creatures with geometries that hurt too. Perceive communicated in ways that shattered normal thought patterns. They showed her visions of Earth's future. A dead rock floating around a dying star, with no trace that humans had ever existed. 45 minutes later, Janae emerged from the pod, stretching and smiling. That was fascinating, she said approvingly. The non-Euclidean geometry was particularly creative. Whoever designed that understood advanced mathematics very well. The monitoring equipment showed her stress levels had actually decreased during the simulation. She was more relaxed now than when she went in. Dr. Park, Taemin said weakly, you just experienced cosmic insignificance and existential meaninglessness. How are you not traumatized? Why would I be? Janae asked, looking genuinely confused. The universe being vast and indifferent is just basic astronomy. We figured that out centuries ago. The ancient alien civilizations were quite interesting from an anthropological perspective. Dr. Yunmi's cybernetic implants flickered. You experienced beings that could destroy human civilization without noticing. Entities so powerful they make your entire species irrelevant. Yes, that was the point of the scenario, Janae agreed. Very effective cosmic horror. The sense of scale was excellent. I especially liked how the alien intelligence was truly alien, not just humans with different bodies. The research team stared at her. She was discussing her encounter with universe-sending entities, like a literature professor analyzing a poem.
Oh.
Us try something more personal, Taman said desperately. He programmed a new scenario based on psychological horror. This time, Janae experienced reality shifting around her. People she trusted revealed themselves as monsters wearing human faces. Her memories changed without warning. Safe places became death traps. She could not tell what was real and what was hallucination. The simulation lasted an hour. When it ended, Janae looked thoughtful. That was cleverly designed, she said. The unreliable narrator technique works very well in first-person experience. The gaslighting elements were particularly sophisticated. Gaslighting? Dr. Bora clicked in confusion, making someone question their own perception of reality, Janae explained. It is a recognized psychological manipulation technique. The scenario used it very effectively to create uncertainty about what was true. Taman felt his electromagnetic field fluctuating with stress. Janae was analyzing advanced psychological torture like an academic reviewing a research paper. They tried horror scenarios involving body transformation, where Ginny's form changed into something monstrous against her will. She found it biologically interesting. They tested scenarios about losing loved ones to supernatural forces. She discussed the grief processing techniques used in the narrative structure. Every human horror story they threw at her was met with the same calm, analytical response. Appreciated the creativity, noted the psychological techniques, sometimes suggested improvements to make the scenarios more effective. This makes no sense. Dr. Woojin rustled frantically. These are the darkest fears your species has created. Stories designed specifically to terrify human minds. How can you remain unaffected? Janae paused, seeming to really think about the question for the first time. I suppose, she said slowly, it is because I know they are just stories. Humans have been telling scary tales since we learned to speak. We use them to explore our fears safely, to practice dealing with terrible situations, to understand our own psychology better. She gestured toward the simulation pod. Even though the experiences feel real, I know I am in a controlled environment. My rational mind stays engaged, analyzing what is happening and why. The fear becomes interesting instead of overwhelming. But these scenarios are designed to overwhelm rational thought, Taman protested. They attack the very foundations of logic and reason. Yes, Janae agreed. That is what makes them good horror. But humans live with these questions every day. We know we will die. We know the universe is vast and uncaring. We know reality might not be what it seems. We have learned to function anyway. The research team fell silent. They were beginning to understand something fundamental about humanity. That changed everything they thought they knew. Tomorrow, they would try one final test. Something that might finally break through Janae's impossible calm. But deep down, Timon was starting to suspect that the real horror was not in any simulation. They could create. The real horror was realizing what humanity had become to survive on their world. Dr. Taman had not slept in 2 days. His electromagnetic field flickered weakly as he stared at the data from dozens of failed experiments. Janae had experienced every form of terror the galaxy could imagine, plus humanity's own darkest creations. Nothing affected her. The other researchers were not handling the situation well either. Dr. Suyang had condensed into a tight, nervous ball near the ceiling. Dr. Woojin's leaves had turned brown from stress. Dr. Biora clicked constantly, unable to stop her anxiety response. Even Dr. Yunmi had disconnected from parts of her hive mind, because the collective was becoming too disturbed. We need to end this, Dr. Kelvar said. His blue skin had faded to almost white. Ever Janae is, she clearly cannot be broken by psychological means. No, Taman said firmly. There has to be a limit. Every mind has a breaking point. We just have not found hers yet. Through the observation window, they could see Jean reading in the waiting area. She had brought several books about galactic psychology and was taking detailed notes. She looked completely relaxed, as if spending days experiencing nightmares was a normal vacation activity. What if we combine everything? Dr. Yunmi suggested. Her cybernetic implants glowed as she accessed her hive mind's collective intelligence. Every fear from every species, plus all the human horror elements, layer them together into one massive psychological assault. Dr. Wuzhen rustled nervously. That could destroy any mind permanently. Even if Janae has unusual resistance, there must be limits to what consciousness can handle. She volunteered for this, Taemin reminded them. And she keeps asking us to make the tests more challenging. If we are going to find her breaking point, this might be our only chance. They spent hours programming the ultimate fear scenario. It would combine cosmic horror with personal loss, physical terror with existential dread, alien nightmares with human psychology. The simulation would last for what felt like weeks in Janae's mind, giving no rest or relief from the constant assault. When they called Janae for the final test, she practically bounced with excitement. "This is it," she asked, looking at the complex readouts on their screens.
The ultimate horror experience you have been building toward, Dr. Park,"
Taemin said seriously. "This simulation is beyond anything we have ever created. It will attack every aspect of your mind simultaneously. We estimate a 97% chance of severe psychological trauma for any normal being, and the 3% chance," Janae asked curiously, "complete mental breakdown requiring permanent medical care." Janae nodded thoughtfully. "Those are concerning odds. What safety measures do we have in place? We can extract you at any time if your readings become dangerous. The medical team is standing by with psychological trauma treatment, and we have counselors ready for intensive therapy afterward." "Sounds thorough," Janae said approvingly. "Appreciate good safety protocols. When do we start?" She settled into the simulation pod with the same calm she had shown for every previous test. The monitoring equipment attached to her head and chest would track every biological response. If anything went wrong, they would know immediately. "Remember," Taemin said as the pod closed, "think emergency 3 times if you need immediate extraction." "Got it," Janae replied. "See you on the other side." The simulation began. Janae found herself in a universe where every horror humanity had ever imagined was real. Cosmic entities played with galaxies like toys, while ancient gods awakened to destroy reality itself. She watched civilizations rise and fall in moments, meaningless specks in an uncaring void. But the cosmic terror was just the beginning. The scenario attacked her personal connections next. She experienced losing everyone she had ever loved. Not to quick death, but to slow, agonizing transformations that left them begging for help she could not provide. Her family became monsters that retained enough humanity to recognize her while trying to kill her. Her own body betrayed her next. She felt herself changing into something alien and wrong, her thoughts becoming foreign, her memories shifting and disappearing. She could not trust her senses, her mind, or her understanding of reality. The scenario trapped her in impossible geometries where up and down had no meaning, where time flowed backward and forward simultaneously. She faced puzzles that had no solutions, chased hope that was always one step away, experienced the heat death of the universe. While remaining conscious through billions of years of cold emptiness, the psychological assault continued without pause. Every time her mind tried to find stability, the scenario would shift to attack from a new angle, a fear layered upon fear until the very concept of safety became meaningless. In the observation room, alien researchers watched Janae's readings with growing amazement and horror. Her brain showed the patterns of someone experiencing everything the simulation threw at her. Yet her stress responses remained impossibly low. Hours passed, then days of subjective time. The scenario kept escalating, throwing new horrors at Janae. Faster than any mind should be able to process, the monitoring equipment showed she was consciously experiencing every terrible moment. "This is impossible," Dr. Suyang whispered. "No being can endure this level of psychological assault." "Look at her brain patterns," Dr. Biora clicked in amazement. She is not blocking out the experiences or going into protective unconsciousness. She is processing all of it. 3 weeks of subjective time passed in the simulation. Janae experienced every form of terror the galaxy could conceive, plus humanity's most sophisticated psychological horrors, all layered together in an endless assault on sanity and reason. When the pod finally opened, the observation room fell completely silent. Janae sat up slowly and stretched her arms above her head. She worked a crick out of her neck and looked around at the assembled researchers with bright, curious eyes. "Well," she said approvingly, "that was more substantial. I really appreciated the complexity and depth. The philosophical elements about meaning and mortality were particularly well crafted." She paused and smiled at the stunned faces staring at her. "Though I have to ask," Janae continued in the same casual tone, "when does it actually get difficult?" The silence in the room stretched for several long moments. Dr. Taman's electromagnetic field flickered so badly that emergency medical sensors activated. Dr. Kelvar made a choking sound. Dr. Wujin's leaves rustled like a tree in a hurricane. Taman stammered, "This was our maximum intensity simulation. The most psychologically destructive scenario we could possibly create. No known sentient species could experience this without complete mental collapse." Janae looked genuinely puzzled. "But it was just a simulation of regular human concerns. We think about these things every day. Mortality, meaninglessness, cosmic scale, losing people we care about, reality being uncertain. This is just normal life for humans." She checked her watch and stood up from the pod, though I do appreciate the artistic effort that went into it. The narrative structure was quite sophisticated. Very immersive storytelling. Dr. Yunmi's cybernetic implants sparked as her hive mind tried to process what they had witnessed. You experienced the psychological equivalent of every nightmare in galactic history simultaneously. For subjective weeks without relief. Are you not broken? Janae tilted her head slightly, as if the question confused her. Why would I be broken? It was intense, certainly, but not really traumatic. It's more like a very complex virtual reality experience with philosophical themes. She looked around at the traumatized research team. Are you all feeling okay? You look more stressed than I do, and I was the one in the simulation. That was when Dr. Taman realized the true horror of their situation. They had not been testing Janae's resistance to fear. They had been discovering that what they considered ultimate terror was simply Tuesday morning for humanity. The question was no longer what could break a human mind. The question was what kind of universe had created beings who could live with such psychological darkness and still get up to make coffee in the morning. The conference hall had never been so quiet. Word of the failed experiments had spread through Harmony Point like wildfire. Delegates from 12 worlds sat in stunned silence as Dr. Taman presented his findings. The data showed something that challenged everything they thought they knew about psychology, fear, and the nature of consciousness itself. "Ladies, gentlemen, and entities," Taman began, his voice shaking slightly, "we have completed the most comprehensive fear response study in galactic history. The results are ... unprecedented." He activated the holographic displays. Charts and graphs filled the air around him, showing stress responses across different species. Every line on the graphs peaked high when subjects faced alien fears. Every line except one. The human readings were almost flat. Dr. Janae Park experienced psychological scenarios that would destroy any known form of consciousness. Taman continued. Cosmic horror, existential terror, personal loss, reality, dissolution, and combinations of every fear we could imagine. Her stress responses remained at levels lower than most beings experience during normal daily activities. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Several delegates had left the hall already, too disturbed by the implications to continue listening. Dr. Su Young floated near the stage, her gaseous form shifting nervously. How is this possible? Every thinking being in the galaxy has psychological limits, breaking points that ensure survival by avoiding extreme trauma. Janae stood up from her seat in the audience. May I address that question? Taman nodded. Though he looked nervous about what she might say, Janae walked to the center of the hall with the same calm confidence she had shown throughout the end experiments. The assembled delegates watched her with a mixture of fascination and fear. Dr. Soo-young is correct, Janae said. Every species does have psychological breaking points, humans included, but our breaking points are different from yours. She gestured toward the holographic data still floating in the air. You designed these tests based on alien fears. It's things that terrify your species. But humans evolved on a world that was trying to kill us every single day. Janae activated a new display showing Earth's history. Images of ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, plagues, and mass extinctions filled the space above the delegates. Earth has experienced 5 major extinction events, she explained. Cosmic disasters that wiped out most life on the planet. Humans evolved knowing that our entire species could be destroyed at any moment by forces completely beyond our control. The display showed predators that hunted early humans, diseases that killed millions, natural disasters that leveled civilizations. We learned early that the universe was not safe, Janae continued, that death was always close, that everything we built could be destroyed without warning. So we adapted to live with that knowledge. Dr. Wu Jin rustled his leaves nervously. But how do you function with such constant terror? We tell stories about it, Janae said simply. We make art about our fears. We write books about disasters and monsters and cosmic meaninglessness. We create horror movies and share scary tales around campfires. She pulled up examples of human horror culture. Stories about zombies, aliens, ghosts, and entities beyond comprehension. Movies about the end of the world. Books about heroes facing impossible odds. Every human grows up learning that they will die, Janae explained. We know our loved ones will die. We know our civilizations will eventually fall. We understand that we are tiny, brief specks in a vast, uncaring universe. The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. Several made sounds of distress. And then, Janae continued with a smile. We get up in the morning and make coffee anyway. Dr. Yunmi's cybernetic implants flickered as her hive mind processed this information. You live with existential terror as a normal state of consciousness. Not terror, Janae corrected. Acceptance. We acknowledge the darkness and decided to build something beautiful in spite of it. We create music knowing it will be forgotten. We form relationships knowing they will end. We build cities knowing they will crumble. We do it because the alternative is giving up, and humans are terrible at giving up. She gestured toward the failed experiment data. Your test showed me cosmic insignificance, personal loss, reality, uncertainty, and physical transformation. But these are just normal human concerns. Every human teenager goes through an existential crisis about meaning and mortality. We call it growing up. Dr. Kelvar's electromagnetic field fluctuated wildly. How do you maintain sanity while contemplating such things? We find meaning in spite of meaninglessness, Janae said. We create connection in spite of isolation. We choose to care about things even when we know they are temporary. We decided that if the universe does not provide meaning, we will make our own. The conference hall erupted into chaos. Delegates from different worlds began talking all at once, their voices mixing into a cacophony of confusion and amazement. Dr. Taman called for order. The implications of these findings extend far beyond psychology, he announced. We may need to completely revise our understanding of human capabilities. Guinea nodded. That might be wise. Humans have been preparing for the worst-case scenario. For our entire evolutionary history, we're very good at surviving things that should kill us and staying cheerful while we do it. Dr. Bora clicked a question. What would actually frighten a human then? What could break through your psychological defenses? Guinea considered this seriously. Probably the realization that none of it matters and we should stop trying. That there truly is no point to existence, love, art, or hope. Grinned. But even then, most humans would probably just shrug and keep trying anyway. It is what we do. We are stubborn that way. The conference concluded with a fundamental shift in how the galaxy viewed humanity. The final reports were distributed. To every world in the Galactic Council, Humans were no longer classified as a minor species with limited capabilities. Instead, they were recognized as the beings who had learned to live with cosmic horror as a daily reality and still managed to create beauty, meaning, and hope. Universities across the galaxy began offering courses in human psychology. Other species started studying Earth's art and literature, trying to understand how consciousness could function while accepting such dark truths about existence. Several worlds requested human counselors and therapists to help their populations deal with existential questions that had never been properly addressed. Gin's final report to Earth was brief but historic. Conference successful. Accidentally established humans as the galaxy's existential therapists. Also discovered that our normal Tuesday morning is apparently cosmic horror to everyone else. Recommend updating diplomatic protocols accordingly. Galaxy would never be the same. They had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not fearlessness or courage. It was the ability to look directly into the abyss, acknowledge its existence, and then turn around to build something wonderful. Anyway, other species began to understand that when humans said "have a nice day," they meant it literally. Humans had figured out how to have nice days, even in a universe designed to crush hope and meaning, as Jin'ei packed to return to Earth. Delegates from across the galaxy approached her with requests. They wanted to learn human techniques for psychological resilience. They wanted to understand how consciousness could accept mortality and meaninglessness without breaking. The secret, Jin'ei told them, is not fighting the darkness. It is learning to dance with it. Humans have been dancing with our demons for so long that we forgot other species never learned the steps. She boarded her transport ship with a suitcase full of requests for human psychological expertise and a head full of new research ideas. Behind her, the galaxy was beginning to understand that they had not been studying a minor species. They had been learning from the beings who had mastered the art of hope in a hopeless universe, and that Jin'ei reflected as her ship jumped to, faster than light speed, was perhaps the most human thing of all.